Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Do Manage Lead the videos. My name is Nigel Argall. I'm the author of Do Manage Lead, the book, Essential Bible-Based Tools for Leaders. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about time management. My guess is whether you are a homemaker, a manager, a leader, or even CEO of an enormous corporation, nearly all of us will have that experience of at times feeling overwhelmed. It feels like we have too many tasks to do and not enough hours in the day. There's a lot of approaches to this, but what I'm going to share with you on this video is my favorite single tool for making sense of that situation, but also actually getting on top of it, getting to a better place in our working life. We can't create more hours in the day, but we can choose what we do and how we do it. And this is an essential tool for making sense of that dilemma. As always, we're going to start with a Bible story. This is from one of the Gospels. This is from the Gospel of Mark. I love Mark's Gospel. It's such a fast-paced narrative. There's no Christmas story at the beginning. We plunge straight into a story about Jesus' ministry. And Jesus has been having a really hectic day. But let's see what happens that evening and the next morning. This is Mark chapter 1, 32 to 37. That evening after sunset, the people brought to Jesus all the sick and demon-possessed. The whole town gathered at the door, and Jesus healed many who had various diseases. He also drove out many demons, but he would not let the demons speak because they knew who he was. Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Simon and his companions went to look for him, and when they found him, they exclaimed, "Everybody is looking for you." I love that story. Jesus is incredibly busy. Jesus, 100% God, 100% human, and in that sense could only be in one place at one time, just like us. He faced exactly the same dilemmas in terms of trying to get a lot done and not really having enough time for it. I love that moment in the narrative where Simon finds Jesus and says, "Everybody is looking for you." It's almost hidden there in the words, that sort of, "Come on, Jesus, what are you doing? Why are you spending time praying? We need to be out there, more preaching, more teaching, more healing. Come on, what sort of thing is this to be doing with your time?" Even Jesus faced that dilemma, too much to do, not enough time. We as humans face that dilemma. Let's have a look at this tool and see how it helps us tackle that. It was actually the American academic Charles Hummel who invented a phrase you will have heard, the tyranny of the urgent. The tyranny of the urgent. He pointed out any aspect of the work that we are doing, any aspect of the tasks that we have for the day has two elements. The first is, how important is it? Is it something really, really vital, or is it just something that's on our to-do list? But the other element to it is, how urgent is it? Now, because of those two aspects, this is the famous urgent important matrix. Other people, including Stephen Covey, have used this in his book. Basically, what we've got here is this side of it, things that are urgent, this side, things that are not particularly urgent, they can wait, and then here, things that are important, things that are not particularly important. Hummel and Covey have basically said anything we do in our day falls into one of these boxes. So we have over here probably if you're in a work context, the stuff you're planning to do, going through spreadsheets, interviewing staff, strategic planning for the future, staff appraisal, the kind of day-to-day stuff that most of us do as professionals. But we also know that sometimes either something goes wrong or something creeps up on us or somebody goes off ill, and we have something that it's important, but it's also actually urgent, and we kind of have to do that stuff now. You'll have heard of the phrase firefighting. Stuff in this box is firefighting. It's got to be done, and it's got to be done really soon. It's important and it's urgent as well. Down here is stuff that is urgent but not important. Now, to begin with, you might be thinking, I'm not quite sure what that would be. But my favourite example is if somebody rings you up, the phone on your desk starts ringing. It's urgent. If you don't answer it, it's going to stop ringing and you're not going to talk to the person. But so often when you answer it, somebody says, oh, could I just talk to you about, and actually think, oh, I didn't really want to do this. You've got into something, it's urgent, it's happening now, but it wasn't particularly important. Another one is where somebody puts their head around the door and says, have you just got a minute? Can I ask you about, again, it's going to happen now, but it's not particularly important. Non-urgent and non-important, again, you might be struggling to think of anything that goes into that box, but most of us, if we're honest, there's kind of stuff, we kind of spend a bit of time maybe looking at social media during the day or something that, with hindsight, you think didn't really need to do that, didn't achieve very much, but, I just felt the urge to do it. What you can do, the most practical way to do this is either to create your own matrix like this, or you can download these. There's a million sites on the internet where you can download a blank. Fill in any working day what you've been doing. Now, I don't just mean what's in your diary or what you thought you did, what you actually did with the time, and you will find stuff probably in each and every box. This is the first half of this model, this theory, this tool. But here's the second half, and this is where it starts getting really interesting. What people like Hummel and Covey have said is this: if I asked you, and particularly if you work in a really busy situation, a busy office, a busy team, if I said to you, what do you spend most of your time, most of your working day doing? A lot of you, the answer is going to be, well, this stuff. Obviously, it's urgent, it's important, the phone's ringing, something's broken, a machine's broken down, a delivery hasn't arrived, somebody's gone off sick, I've got to sort this stuff out. Here's the key insight. The box that we want to be spending most of our time working in is this one here. It's important, but the stuff that's not yet urgent. Why do we want to be mostly working in that box? Two reasons. The first is simply this: most work is done better when it's not urgent, when we've got time to think, to reflect, to do the research we need to do. We do better work usually in this box than this one. The second reason we want to focus on this box is simply this: stuff in this box, if we don't get it done, will nearly always migrate over into this box here, and then we're back into that rush firefighting style of working. Let's go back to this Bible story about Jesus and see how this works out. Okay, if you remember, we left the story. Jesus had been out praying. Simon had come to find Jesus and said, everybody is looking for you. Jesus replied, verse 38, Jesus replied, let us go somewhere else to the nearby villages so that I can preach there also. That is why I have come. So he travelled through Galilee, preaching in their synagogues and driving out demons. I love the way that Jesus has a different sense of what is important. To Simon, the urgency was to be doing the preaching, the healing, the teaching. He was excited by that. That was a good thing. Jesus had that sense of the thing to be doing now, the thing that's important, and the thing that's urgent right now, early this morning, is for him to be praying to his Heavenly Father. It's as if he has a different sense of priorities. He has a different sense of what is urgent, what is important, and he makes time to do that. And we see that particularly throughout John's Gospel. He has this incredible sense of what is urgent and what is important at each moment in time, building up to his time in Jerusalem and the crucifixion at the end. Okay, let's just go back to thinking about this tool, how we use this. I've got some good news and some bad news. The good news is this: as a tool, this is really very simple. You can print off the matrix, you can see what you are spending your time on. I think most of us can get our heads around it. Like all great tools, like all great theories, it's really very, very simple. That's the good news. The bad news is this: I'd be the first to admit, just because it's simple does not mean it's easy. If we are used to working in box one, if our work, if our ministry is dominated by things that are urgent and important, we may want to get to a situation where we're spending much more time on the things that are important but non-urgent, but to actually transition to that is very, very difficult. By definition, our working day is dominated by the urgent, important, the firefighting, the tyranny of the urgent. So it's not easy to do that, and you may have to put a lot of effort into getting on top of things to get to a place where you are working mostly in box 2, the important but the non-urgent. I want to challenge you as well, because for some of us there are practical challenges to getting to that position. Actually, the truth is some of us like working in box 1. Stephen Covey calls this the addiction of the urgent. We like to be busy. Some of us, we're motivated by the adrenaline rush of an approaching deadline. Incidentally, if you're a leader and you like working like that, that may be very stressful for your team, because lots of members of your team will not like working up to deadlines. So there could be a personality thing. You may need to reflect on how you work, what motivates you. Personally, I get stressed in box 1. I like to be working in box 2, but you may not be like that. But I still want to suggest you do better work when you're in box 2. The other thing that goes with that is a lot of us work in organizational cultures that celebrate the urgent and the important. It's almost as if you're not rushing around ridiculously busy, actually you haven't got enough work on, and it can be very challenging. If you get to a stage of working calmly in box 2, it may well be that your work colleagues actually think you've probably got not enough work on. That's not fair. You're just a bit better organized than them. So sometimes we need to challenge or to manage our organizational cultures. If that is your organizational culture, the other danger is, because you are perceived as not having enough work, people will then like to dump stuff in your urgent and important box just to keep you busy. So I'd be the first to say this is a brilliant tool. I think it's the single best, most important tool that we can have for managing our time, managing our tasks, managing our work. But it may be simple, but it's not easy, and it can take quite a long time to set boundaries and to get really good at maximizing the benefits of this tool. As always, there's a lot more Bible stories, a lot more reflection, a lot more theory in the book. See the link below if you want to get a copy of that. All the best with your work and your ministry. All the best. Try and stay in box 2.